Today, we're about to introduce to you guys a additional globally known guest for the upcoming convention in Hollywood, October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's a gentleman that I met a couple years ago, probably a decade by now, in Australia. And now he does a lot of work all around the world, in Europe. In my own opinion, although he probably will explain that it's not actually the case, but he is the greatest natural I have met. His vibe, poise, posture, everything speaks for itself. I was on tour with him a couple years back in Europe, and it was just so inspiring to witness him. Every city, different girls, and very organic, very natural, very vibe-oriented. So we're going to help you with that. James Marshall is with us today. And, of course, also, Arash Dibazar. We've been at it nonstop. Every time we do one of those podcasts, Arash outperforms, presents you with frames that no one has ever talked about before. So we're here, the three of us. James, it's a pleasure to have you with us. What's going on?
Vince, Kelvin, it is, well, I don't think I've had an introduction like that before, certainly not when I was a musician. That was great. Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the phone with you, and I can't wait to be in your presence again, hanging out.
Yeah, very much. It's genuine. I mean, your vibe is surreal. And Arash, we're going at it nonstop. What's going on your side today, Arash?
Well, it seems like you and I were just talking about an hour ago, then an hour before, an hour before, an hour before. I feel like you are now a voice inside of one of my neurons. One of the neurons are named Kelvin. And,
I've got one of those. Those are awesome.
You have one of those. So now I just feel like I'm basically just talking to myself again. So I'm ready to go, because the things we talk about are literally the things that I think about and live. That's one of the things people ask, like, how do you produce so much? I'm like, I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. If I wasn't on the radio or whatever phone right now, I would still be having the same kind of conversations, probably with one of my neurons in my head. I just now voice it out loud. So I'm ready to go, and I'm as excited as anybody else to find out what comes out in these interviews.
So basically, I'm a guest inside a brain cell of you two combined together.
In my head,
That's it.
In my head, there's a brand new neuron being created called James Marshall, and getting to know it.
This is getting surreal. This is awesome. All right, let's do this.
I love it. It reminds me often when girls would say to me, like, "Who are you?" I would say, I'm just a figment of your imagination. You're hallucinating all of this. This is the naughty part of you that's imagining me. So, well, we are focused on two essential aspects. First, massive action. That's what it takes. And for you guys, you listen and re-listen to all those podcasts. That's how you really embed the mindset. And constant evolution, constantly stretching the frame of mind. So, James, I will start with what I initially picked up from you when we first met is your vibe. It's inviting. A lot of people talk about comfort and how to tell stories to make a girl more comfortable. You do it from the start, in my own opinion. Just your presence makes others more comfortable. I'm sure not everybody, because it takes an open-minded person to feel and witness that. But I will start. First question for you, James, is what's the recipe? How do you explain that aspect of you?
I would explain that by saying that what makes somebody feel comfortable around you is if you are comfortable with yourself. So I think that's really the secret of my vibe, or anyone else who people feel instantly comfortable around, or they feel they can trust, or they feel that they're listened to, anything like that, is that person is at ease with themselves at that moment, and therefore they are open, vulnerable, and sharing, and clear about what it is they want and who they are. And so that allows the other person who's witnessing this or experiencing this to step into that same space. And they want to, because everyone wants to be around somebody who's like that, because they want to feel like that themselves.
And what would be a starting step? Because one thing we're committed to really provide the community with are actual practical steps. So for everybody listening right now, what would be a simple exercise if they're not comfortable around people and people tend to not be comfortable around them? How can they open the door to start to move in that direction?
Well, I'd say there's two simple things they can do. The first one is that they can shine a light on the thing that they are afraid people will see about them. Because when somebody's uncomfortable with themselves, they're uncomfortable with being seen, that thing is going to be seen. So by actually owning up to that, and that's an internal decision first. That's you looking at yourself and going, right now I feel like I'm a nervous person, or I feel like I'm shy, or I feel like I don't have anything much to offer a girl because I'm inexperienced in bed, or whatever else it is that is driving or perpetuating a man's insecurities. Everything he's trying to do is designed to cover that up or to retreat from view so that he's not seen at all. And instead, the thing is you've got to come out of the closet with your insecurities. You just need to be able to talk to a girl and say something like, you know what, I'm actually quite nervous around you because I haven't talked to a girl like this before. Now, obviously, that's not good game in the sense that that's not an attractive technique or line. But in order for you to become comfortable with yourself currently, you're going to have to own up to the dark side and the issues that you have and the concerns that you have. And just start putting them out there, not in a needy way, not asking for anyone to solve it, but being able to just expose that this is who you are. And a good example I can think of was a student of mine who was a virgin. He finally got in bed with a girl who was quite a bit older than him, and she'd had experience. And he's fumbling around trying to, get her bra off and accidentally bumping her with his elbow and stuff. And then she pulls back for a second and says, "You've never done this before, have you?" And he looks her in the eye and he says, "No, I haven't, but I'm going to do it anyway." And that is, an absolute gold example of this. It's that in that moment, he could have tried to pretend that he was something he wasn't, or apologize, or get angry, or any other reactive behavior. But instead, he just owned, yeah, this is me right now, and that's cool. Like, I'm okay with being this virgin in this moment, because pretty soon I'm not going to be this virgin. And then she sees that, and she's like, yeah, that's fucking sexy. All right, dude, get on board, and I'll teach you how to do this.
That's a really powerful kind of untapped for most attraction switch. The idea of accepting yourself as you are, the way you are, not in a wimpy way, but in a winning way, and present it. Because I also had this experience where a really, really shy student was staring a couple hours into a boot camp at a girl that looked like the Japanese Lady Gaga at the Roosevelt at the bar. Yeah, and he didn't know what to say and so on. And I told him, you go and you just say, I know I'm looking at you, but I don't really know what to say. And to everybody's surprise around, that just melted her. One of the former guests of some of the conventions we've done in the past was Elizabeth Everett.
Yes, I remember. I've met Elizabeth. She's great.
And of course, you have a chick at a convention. Everybody's going to give it a shot. So throughout her experience in the community, she would build little walls of avoiding, students or colleagues try to make a move on her. And one day, I forgot what city we were in, some guy just out of nowhere, non-community, came to her and told her, I normally don't talk to girls, but something made me want to talk to you. I hope you don't mind. And he wasn't weak the way he said it, and she fucking melted for it. So anyway, James, brilliant stuff. We're on, guys. Put that into practice. And we're following a unique format because we always like to innovate. So we're doing mutual interview. And I know you're just today getting acquainted with Arash, but maybe if you don't mind to pass a question of your choice to Arash.
Okay, certainly. So, Arash, we haven't met and don't know each other. And I've only had a quick look at your material. So I guess for me, and I hope this isn't redundant information, you guys have heard it, but I'd just be curious to know what is your kind of base foundation of what it is that you teach, if you had to sort of boil it down into one principle, I guess.
Okay, that would be like asking, let's take the dictionary and give one word that describes it, and it would probably be definition, right? So I'm going to attempt that. I think it's a brilliant question. Give me a second to think about it. One basic philosophy. What does it stand on? Yeah. Here it is. Without your own personal experience, your own personal values, if you have not sat there and examined who you are, what's important to you, what are you doing, what do you want it to be said about you, what do you want to be able to say about yourself when life is over, without that foundation of that it's your life first, outside of everybody else, outside of any other individual, parents, religions, friends, family, children, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It starts with the individual recognizing that without them being present in their life, nothing else can take place. Thus, the senior datum, the senior piece of information that has to be above all others is that you matter the most in your life out of any experience, because without you, none of those would be experienced by you. So that would mean if we take that out, the whole jigsaw puzzle crumbles down like a Jenga puzzle. So looking at it, this is something that is key in studying with me or being around me or just being my friend or even being one of my girls, is that without your own point of view, without your own personal experience, and you validating that it is the most important thing going on right now for you. Because without that, without your own point of view and experience, none of it would be happening to you anyway. So everything else goes junior to that. And I think that would be the key datum to start with, because when a person begins to think like this or see the world like this, really, then they start taking a lot more responsibility and their power starts returning very rapidly. And there's a whole push, you could say, by people in their lives, whether it's good intention or bad intention, it doesn't really matter. People are pushing the opposite idea on them all the time, which is they matter less than everybody else. And then when they try to fix that, they normally overcompensate. You know, and I see it many times, like, oh, no, it's my life. I can do what I want. Well, it's true, so you don't have to yell about it. You know what I mean? That's all there is to it. So that would be the basic foundation that all other teachings should sit on, is that the individual, their experience is senior to any other thing going on in life at that moment for that individual.
Yeah, cool, man. It's kind of interesting that for people like us, I guess that seems almost second nature, doesn't it? Like that your pursuit of your journey is the ultimate. But it's interesting that you have to have that kind of philosophy, because there are so many people that are out there who, in subtle ways or obvious ways, are living for other people or living for a system or living for a belief structure that's not theirs. And as a result, they're literally spending their entire lives for other people. So yeah, that's really cool that you're helping guys to wake up and see that nothing else is going to operate well in your life if you aren't the paramount concern.
Absolutely.
And
cool.
The awakening is strong. It's strong. You know, I've witnessed the impact that Arash has on the guys, and I think it's the most instantaneous impact that I've ever witnessed. This awakening and so on. So we continue, and perhaps one of you guys throw a question at me.
Oh yes, please.
I have a question. I have a question for you.
Let's both ask you one.
Would you have one, James? Because I have a question for you too. So then you can go to James and I'll ask you.
Yeah, let's just throw them. Let's just start throwing them around like they're mud cakes, and we'll just keep answering them.
Okay, Vince. The same question that James asked of me will be a question that I have for you and for James. I'd like to know what the basic, if there was one, if you could break it down into one basic teaching, what does it rest on for you and for James?
For me, it's the principle of utilization, which I've learned from the famous hypnotist Milton Erickson. Some may be familiar with him and his work and his legacy, others not. But basically, of course, you know, everything through time turns into a bit of a story and a legend. But the documentation about his work reflects that he basically had 100% success rate. But the thing that he did, he never went against, and he was doing clinical hypnotherapy in a clinical setting. So hardcore cases, for example, he worked at one point with one guy who was under the impression that he was going to be pulled into the cosmos. And of course, they tried everything, his family, psychologists, and so on, therapists. And the mistake they all made, they were trying to convince him that it would not happen. Erickson went right along with it, had a backpack ready for the guy, heavy shoes, I think skiing shoes. He told him, you're going to need water with you. And just so the pull is not too strong, let's put rocks in your backpack. And see that little hill right behind the clinic over there? Every day at noon, I want you to go up there with the backpack and your shoes, and one of those days they're going to pull you up. And the record showed that the guy did that for a couple of days, and then he got tired of it, and eventually he became sound again and mentally sound and was able to leave the clinic and go back to his family. So when I was studying that work, which is not really available, it's not easy to put your hands on the work of Erickson. Oftentimes it requires having a PhD to be able to get a hold of his best material and so on. I thought to myself, let's do the same thing with women, and let's do the same thing with guys. Most guys think, I don't know what to say, and that's a big problem. Well, why think of it as a problem? Why not utilize that? I've done hundreds of openers where I would be like, hey, I got no clue what to say, but here I am. So here we are. Hello. And it kind of taps into what you were saying, James. It's of course, you don't want to deliver that in a weak manner. Okay, you got to bring some guts and belly power into it and be fine with it. I think the distinction is if you're not fine with it, it comes across the wrong way. If you're absolutely fine with it, you can pretty much say whatever the fuck you want. And then with women, too, instead of that silly mindset of I could get a good response or a bad response, I omit all of that thinking, and I just know that whatever happens, I can utilize it. My favorite would be whenever a girl would go like, fuck you, I'd be like, wow, hold it. You're too fast for me, sweetheart. Fuck and me in the first sentence. Why don't we initially get acquainted? Of course, delivery. Arash and I had a call not too long ago, and we were talking about, he was saying how delivery will affect everything. So delivery is key. And later on, James, I want to talk about your delivery because your tonality is just so well placed that it is in itself reassuring, calming, and grounding. I remember a couple of years ago, you and I had a call, and I was in the midst of a big event all over the place, and then I just heard your voice. After 5 minutes of listening, I was like, I feel good. Things are good. So,
glad
to wrap it up
help.
and pass you guys a question, then utilize whatever happens in the environment, within you, with the women. Side note, it also applies in a relationship. If a guy is in a relationship with one or many women or multiple women and they know of each other or not, instead of entering it and hoping that it's always going to be good, know that sometimes there's going to be little storms, differences, maybe even fights. But if you're smart, you can utilize that to channel even further greater sexual energy. So guys, to turn it into something practical, begin today, pause for a moment, make a note of that, a simple question, probably initially not upfront because it's going to take a little practice. So initially you're going to reflect back on your interactions, and whatever puzzled you, threw you off, pissed you off, made you feel like it wasn't working, ask yourself the question, how can I use that to further the attraction and begin to sexualize? So that's for me. And if I understand correctly, Arash, you want to pass back that same question to James. Is that correct? Or am I following you guys?
Yeah, but first of all, the answer that you gave was actually really, and I really like that answer. You know, Milton Erickson is somebody that I admire greatly. Have you seen a movie called A Wizard of the Desert or Desert Wizard or something? It's about his life.
I haven't seen that movie, no, but I'm putting it on the list right now.
You have to special order it. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's like really, it's a bunch of little clips of him that haven't been shown before, and an interview with his family. You're really going to dig it. I mean, it was one of the most impactful movies I've ever seen in my life, for me. To see somebody be so, the guy was so observant, you know what I mean, which is, I think, so key in what we do, in anything. He would just pay very close attention to things. And one thing that you just said that I had missed it, I guess, the importance of it is what I had missed, is the fact that he didn't really resist anything. And you're absolutely right. You know, I didn't catch that about him. He didn't resist anything. And anything you brought to him, and I've said that about you. If you remember, I've said that Vince's superpower is you fucking shoot him with bullets, and the bullets go in his body, and they come back at you. I said he'll take whatever comes his way. So I kind of got what was happening there. That was really fucking cool, man. Okay, James, the same question would be great if you could answer.
Sure. So the foundation of everything that I teach rests on awareness. That's really where I'm coming from personally. You know, my background is in meditation, martial arts, and shamanism, different spiritual pursuits. And that's what I used initially to deconstruct my own psyche, my own emotions, my own reactive behaviors, was to develop my internal sense of awareness, to really come to know who I was and what parts of me were simply patterns of thought or were reflections of pain or whatever things that were not actually innately me. And through awareness, it was that I was able to dissolve that kind of stuff. And on the flip side, awareness is the key tool that you use in seduction, actually, in terms of being able to read people, observe things, see patterns in nature, be able to adjust to certain social environments, be able to read someone's blush response, to be able to see that your eye contact's too heavy, like all of these things in terms of the subtleties, the nuances, and the small actions in seduction that really get a woman going or really give you a command over an environment. It all comes down to the person that is most able to be at once at ease and calm and aware of themselves, and at the same time be able to read all that in the external environment and adjust and respond to the needs of what's happening. So I think without a clear sense of personal internal awareness, a man is not really able to be proactive in his own change. And my job as a coach is to make myself obsolete as soon as possible. And the way that I do that is by helping my clients to actually become incredibly self-aware so that they can actually learn to coach themselves. They can deconstruct their own behavior. They can watch the responses of women, and then they can calibrate and learn and change with every approach. So yeah, that's definitely the key to everything else that I teach. From the foundation of awareness, which is more or less a neutral and open and potential space, then you can charge that with your mission. And that's where I then teach, you know, projection of intent and putting your will out into the world and all of the other technical aspects of seduction. But it has to come first from that place of open, aware space.
Yeah. Okay. Fully understand actually what you're saying, and it makes sense. It makes sense because that's really, I think anybody in this art form or similar would have to really get that you have to be able to see. You have to be able, that's it, the word awareness. You nailed it. Okay, got it. Well, that does my question right there.
Cool.
I have a question for Arash, okay?
Yeah.
A little preamp, and then I throw the question. You and I, each time that we've been sharing the stage, every word you say, I'm really, really, really like registering, and I don't know if you ever noticed, but from the perspective of listening, I'm like, yeah, you know. So, but for a lot of students, one of the challenges is that they don't really have an awareness of the value. I wish that every time you answer a question, we could have a fucking marching band and a couple strippers to get everybody's attention. And then, so I tie in with a quick example. We had Bad Boy that came to one of the prior global events I organized. And Bad Boy always brings like some ways of thinking that are going to shock everybody at first, and then they all accept it. So he came in with the concept of insta-fuck. And he spoke about it for about 30 minutes, and I was in the back of the room, and I was like, insta-fuck, interesting. And, of course, I've had experiences of, like, super fast street to sex, but I did two things. I said, you know what, let's really hear what he has to say. Let's not pollute with your own experience and understanding of it. And then basically by the time he was done with his talk, I said, okay, let's give that a shot. And I manifested. During the conference, I started to walk around. There was a girl who was there to do interviews, and her camera girl, the camera person was a girl that was with her, and I went strong at it. Less than 10 minutes, we're in the bathroom. So for students to really recognize the value that's being brought, what do you think is the connection in their own mind, or since James was talking about awareness, something, because I know you have such great thoughts about what it really takes to get good and the investment needed. So what can students do to really at least be a little more aware of the value that they are getting, to know how to recognize pure gold when you hear it? Arash.
Mm-hmm. There's 3 points that come to my mind as you were saying that. The first one is, it's an old Buddhist teaching that says it's the ripest fruit that falls first from the tree. So we're going to keep that in mind for just a second as I come back to it in a second, okay? The ripest fruit is the one that falls from the tree. 1. 2. When I'm speaking, I'm not any longer thinking about helping somebody. Now, this may sound really weird, but I went through the phase of helping people. And I came to my own personal realization about this. A lot of people disagree with what I'm about to say, but, you know, that's never stopped me from shitting on their heads, so I'll just keep going. I do it because it's a release of the pressure inside my own head. I have to talk. It builds. This information builds and builds and builds, and then it clogs me. I have to let it out. Yesterday, prior to you and I doing our 7 o'clock, I was timing it because I knew I was going to fucking kill it yesterday. I knew that we were going to be with, I forgot his name, James something, the shaman, you know, and I knew we were going to talk about magic, and I was like, God, I'm going to just fucking take people in another dimension tonight. And so I was kind of preparing all day, but what's interesting is at 6 p.m., I was overflowing, and I had 1 hour left, and I was like, fuck me. So I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to, okay, I'm going to go ride my bike. No, it's not doing it. I mean, I literally felt like I was on drugs at that moment. And so what I did is I sent a few messages on Facebook and through my phone to students. And I said, if you have time right now to get on Skype, free Skype session. So the first one that answered me was like, oh, my God, really? I said, yep. So they got on like 6:10 p.m. And they're like, oh, I said, look, whatever questions you have, ask right now. So we spoke to around 6:55, 5 minutes prior. And then it was a female. She said to me, she said, why do you do this? I said, because I was going to explode with this energy, and I've now let go of the top layer of it. So now I'm prepared. I said, in 5 minutes, we're going to get into some real deep shit. So when I'm teaching, I'm doing it because I need to right now. For my own expression, for my own true, authentic living, I have to. Now, that, with the ripest fruit falling from the tree, this is what it comes down to. I'm going to say what I have to say, and I'm going to calibrate it based on the audience to some degree. You know, I'm not saying everything I know, obviously, right? But at the same time, there will be people in the audience who are so ready for it. They may hear one sentence from this and just go, fuck, that is what I was looking for. This is it. This was the answer I've been searching for. That is the ripest fruit, and it'll fall. And others may just be, you know, little fruit that is about to be blossoming, or little flowers about to blossom, and they'll hear it and they'll say, that sounds cool. Or they'll say, he's so passionate in the way he talks. Or God, he's just kind of like out there, or whatever the fuck they say. It's not really my concern. So to answer the question, how would a student best utilize or learn or absorb this knowledge, I think that it has very, very little to do with what I'm saying, and it has everything to do with who they are and how they're living their lives. And I don't have a control over that part. So my part is to put this information out as genuinely, truthfully, honestly as possible with the least amount of perversion that I can muster up through my communication and put it out there. And so I've gotten rid of the idea. I don't think with that idea any longer of are people getting it or not. I definitely think with the idea of what is the purest form of expression right now in me, and let that shit out. So when I'm done, I'm exhausted out of it because the shit just fills itself again very fast. So there's an addiction in me to let out this information, whereas some years back, I would try to withhold a little bit here and there, and it would get weird. It's like it wouldn't be the same. Now I just exhaust myself in every fucking interview. I exhaust myself in every blog, in every status, in every conversation, and it just seems to keep flowing back. And it reminds me of the Tao, from Lao Tzu. I was saying that passage in my mind of what it keeps filling itself by emptying itself or some shit like that. So that's how I see it. If they're prepared to the degree they are, based on their own experiences, studies, and who they are, then they're going to get what they need. And if they're not, it doesn't matter because I still have to say what I have to say. I would be saying this right now, again, to myself, probably riding my bike or walking down the street. But it's much better getting it out into the world in my voice because it's more fulfilling to have people around to interact with for me.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And to connect it with what James was saying, awareness. So, gentlemen listening, we pause and at least become aware that whatever you're hearing, you probably are filtering it. So hang in there, stay with it, listen again and again. A very old study that probably most have heard about, conducted at UC Irvine, had determined that to really grasp information of that nature, not even master it or apply it, prior to application, understanding, it takes on average hearing it 7 times. So that's why we bring you guys all those podcasts. A quick announcement at this moment that for most will be missed because it's happening today, tonight, in preparation for the Global Seduction, Lifestyle, and Relationship Convention happening in October in Hollywood, October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We don't view it as just, okay, there's going to be that event in the future. We see it as a stream of evolution that will help anyone who comes across those podcasts and so on, all the way to the convention and then beyond. We will do post-convention stuff and so on. So tonight's a very epic moment. Arash Dibazar and Hypnotica are going to be doing a video conference live. The way you guys can have access to that, and hopefully you hear this today, which, what are we? What's the date today? Somebody help me.
No idea. I don't know about dates. I just know.
We lost in time.
It's day 2 of the workshop. That's what I know.
I think we are August 4th, right? August 4th,
August
yes?
4th. That's what it says.
That is August 4th. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Because another thing that's happening, the ticket price is going up today. How silly of me. So, August 4th, for those who missed it, there's going to be more in the future. Do your best to catch this one tonight. And it's a Q&A format. All you need to do, it's at 8 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. You go to the site, globalslr.com, and it's best to go before 8 p.m., and there you'll follow a link giving you all the instruction. It's absolutely free. I'm going to be watching it myself. So eager. It's an epic moment of 2 true wizards together, Arash and Hypnotica. And Hypnotica is not the most available. It's very rare, those moments when you get a chance to hear what he has to offer and pick his mind. So join in. It's tonight, 8 p.m. And another exciting announcement at the convention. in the past, we had brought up to 76 speakers, which was awesome. Many who are not speaking are still going to visit. They're going to attend the pink carpet event and so on to come and say hello. But initially, there was a conflict of dates, and then it got resolved. And James, all the way from Europe, initially from Australia, contacted me and said, hey, Vince, I'm coming. And I explained to him that we were keeping the speakers to a certain amount, but being giving as he is and being the kind of man that will show up, he said, you know what, I'm going to show up. So James will be there to assist because it's round the clock, you know, with access to the nightclub on Friday, the pink carpet party on Saturday, party bus for the VIPs. So James will be in charge of prepping you guys, helping you with the night work and so on. So it's a blessing. James, thanks for being so giving of your time and stepping up and going from one continent to the other to come be of service to the community for this convention.
Vince, the chance to be in charge of your party bus in Hollywood, of course I'm going to jump at that. You think I got something better to do than that? No way.
So we'll continue, and it's been a pleasure throughout the years when you came. You know, first time after I met you at the summit in Australia, when you came to the convention in the U.S., that was a revelation. I mean, we surveyed the whole room, and so many people were like, "Wow, James Marshall." Following year, we surveyed asking, "Who do you want to see this year?" And boom, you came top of the list, James Marshall. So it's going to be awesome. James.
Well, Vince, can I just say about that? I'd just like everyone out there in the internet world to know that if it wasn't for this man, Vince Kelvin, I don't know where I'd be. I'd probably be an acupuncturist in a small country town or something. It was definitely Vince seeing me we were just at a small convention in Australia, a local thing, and he liked what I did and invited me over to speak at the PUA Summit. Was that 2011 or 10 or something, a long time ago? And that was, for me, really my first step into the world stage, first access to a lot of people that became very close and, a lot of opportunities and the first chance that I had to go and spread my message. So Vince is definitely an innovator. He has an eye for talent. And these conventions are catalysts. They're chances for people they're turning points in people's lives. And I know that was a turning point in my life. So it's like coming to these events live, there's nothing that compares to it because you never know who you're going to meet, what conversation you're going to have, what piece of advice someone's going to direct you or what aha moment you're going to have or what networks you're going to make. These are the events that elite men go to, and out of that, your life can completely change.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, backtracking with the question we had about people recognizing the value and the work of Erickson, and I'll throw a question at you in just a second, James, and then you can ask one more to Arash. And I'll ask you about one of your videos. When you see our videos, it seems very natural, like we're having a lot of fun and so on. But there is a system and a structure underneath it that is very intense. So we're doing everything we can this year, modeling some of the best fast-changing systems of change out there. This is beyond just a convention. It's a multi-dimensional event because we got to tap into a whole bunch of things at the same time. Guys need actual in-field experience. So, boom, suddenly Friday evening, you're in the best nightclub in Hollywood, which makes it one of the best in the world since it's such a major location. So there is the party element, entertainment. There is the best education. We're going to challenge all the speakers to really go beyond their own best. And then there's the practical aspect of drilling, round table, and then there's the intensity of the event, the synergy of all like-minded people. So the impact is going to be phenomenal. Now, speaking of video, I'm sure sometimes people point out some of my videos and I go, oh, that's not my favorite one, but I like it. So, so if it is the case, forgive me. But I've seen a video of you. I think you're in Eastern Europe or somewhere. And it's so priceless because you're owning your ground and staying with it in a situation where most guys will either get pissed or become overly passive or feel like they're being rejected. And you turn around that situation just with your presence and your vibe. If I remember well, it's kind of raining. There's a girl over there who doesn't seem to be very social initially. And then you are talking to her, James, and she gives minimal responses, but it doesn't matter. And to me, that's even more priceless to witness that than to witness an interaction that goes according to plan from A to Z. So if you don't mind to expand on that and then take it wherever you want from that idea.
Sure thing. Yeah, this is something that is core to my teaching. And I teach a principle based around the idea of emotional pressure and the ability to live within it and to be able to manipulate it. So the fact is that every social interaction you have with somebody has a greater or lesser degree of internal emotional pressure present in it. So if you're dealing with someone behind the counter who's selling you something and they are just going to ask you for your card and you're just going to say, thank you, good day, there's a very minimal amount of pressure because everyone knows what they are supposed to do. They don't have to engage emotionally. They can just have this transaction, and so there's not much happening with pressure. On the flip side, if a policeman is interrogating a suspect, a situation like that has an immense amount of pressure in it directed from one party to the other, and the other party is dealing with the pressure and trying to work out how best to use it or counter it. Now, in a situation where you're approaching a woman and she's not initially that interested, firstly, you should expect that's going to happen a lot of the time, especially when you're first starting out, and also depending on where you live. I live in Eastern Europe for a very specific reason, which is the girls are hot here. But they are also not very friendly initially. They also have their guard up. They're also suspicious of strangers. They are also nationalistic and don't talk to foreigners. There's all sorts of things that you can encounter here. And so this has been a really good testing ground because I have to sit in amounts of social pressure that most men buckle under. And so a man who is good at picking up women is able to create a container between you and her in which this interaction is happening, and that there is an inherent pressure within it, which is the awkwardness of two strangers who don't know each other and don't yet know each other's agendas and are negotiating them. And that's what the initial part of a seduction is. It's you introducing your agenda, seeing how it responds to hers, having some kind of negotiation with both people having defenses up as well. And so it's your job to hold this space and to be able to be okay in that amount of pressure, and to be able to be okay when it also spikes when she's unresponsive or rude or doesn't give you the answer that you want. And most men react in that situation. Under pressure, most people have reactions which they're not in control of. Those are things like being apologetic or getting aggressive and bitchy, or trying to overcompensate by being too full of bravado and roughness. And women tend to be able to see that, okay, this man's lost his cool, and therefore, of course, she's not attracted. If you can sit within that pressure, and when she does throw something at you that's nasty, or she doesn't give you the response you want, and you can just process that and respond to it, so the girl gives you a minimal answer, and then you process that and say, are you a little bit shy? You're not used to speaking to strangers. That's a use of her input and responding to it, now opening it up to her so she can explain herself. Whereas someone who goes, oh, well, you don't have to be so rude, I was just trying to be friendly, is becoming reactive and buckling under pressure. Right? So that's essentially how I'm able to sit in those situations. And because I'm okay in there, that helps her to become comfortable. She feels that I'm comfortable, even though it's inherently a little bit uncomfortable. And so she gradually gets to relax and see that, oh, okay, hanging out with this guy is calming and it's fun. All right, that's the kind of guy I want to be with, and now she starts to change her mind.
Yes, I hear you. I don't know where Vince is.
I was muted for a second. I apologize, but I heard everything, and solid, super, super solid and essential. How do we turn that into one step that guys can start to take today as they're listening until the next podcast?
So this ties in with awareness, right? So first you need to see, how does pressure affect you? And that's where, by going into your interactions, even if you're just doing sort of warm-up, simple, drills or whatever for your approaches, is that when you go in, you need to be able to feel what this does to you. And this obviously starts before you approach, and this is what men refer to as approach anxiety, which is really just the misplaced labeling of reactions that are going on inside your body. If you can start to look at these reactions using awareness techniques or meditation, by simply feeling, for example, if you're feeling fear, firstly, instead of thinking, oh, I'm feeling fear, I'm embarrassed, I can't do this, this is going badly, whatever, firstly, just locate where that feeling is. Because fear is not a concept, it's a full body experience. So instead, locate it and you find, okay, it's on my chest and it's in my stomach. And then to yourself, just describe it to yourself in neutral adjectives, because the problem with the sensation comes when you associate it as meaning fear, when really it doesn't have to mean anything. So by using awareness, you can start to scan through and just describe yourself, pulsing, wiggling, vibration, electricity, and then using your mind, just observe how this is now affecting you. This is your current response to pressure. And as you bring awareness to it and start disassociating from the story of this means I'm in danger, this means I'm scared, this means I'm a loser, and just concentrate on the actual feeling of it, then it starts to dissipate and start to lose its control. So then you can sit in a pressurized situation and feel, okay, I'm feeling all these feelings, but instead of me reacting to them by trying to escape or apologize or whatever, I'm just going to observe and see that, okay, they're just things that are changing my body, they're moving, they're reaching an intensity, now they're starting to go away, and then you'll be able to sit longer and longer in all sorts of types of social pressure.
That's a powerful exercise, and gentlemen, take the time to pause and do the exercise. I'm going to pass one more question to Arash. Quick reminder, today, at the time of this recording, we just found out a moment ago, is August 4th, and we operate based on a sliding scale to encourage you to save a little bit of money to come to the convention. So tonight at midnight, all the tickets are going to go up. It's getting down to the last VIP ticket that's discounted. So I hope to be the guy who grabs that. The convention speaks for itself, and you simply go to globalslr.com. Global, S as sexy, L as lustful, and R as relishing.com, and grab your tickets. I'm wondering, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but maybe, James, would you have a little something you could throw in for anybody that acts before midnight tonight?
Oh, like a bonus or something?
Yeah, and I'm totally putting you on the spot, so...
Well, they can come and have a walk with me around the block for half an hour and ask me about life, the universe, and everything. That's pretty cool.
At the convention? Whoa!
Yeah, why not?
I love that. I love your energy. When we wrap up, I want to mention one more action that I witnessed from you in the past towards me that was mind blowing. So, but Arash, okay, you live the ultimate dream. You're an entrepreneur, business owner, very successful. You go by your own reality, and with women, you've achieved the dream for all, living with multiple women that are 9s and 10s. I've asked you a similar question in the past, but maybe at a practical step, what allows you to manage that?
Well, I understand that people think I'm living the dream in quotes, but I don't think I am, honestly. I know I'm not. I have an incredible life, and every aspect of it is an expression of who I am. So, for example, it doesn't start with 5 girls. It doesn't start with 8 girls. It starts with 1 girl that I really like. Then it goes into another girl that I really like. And so what happens when you like 2 girls? Well, in my case, then you're with both of them. And what happens when there's 3 girls? Well, then you're going to have to figure that shit out too, right? Or be like, well, 2, I guess, is too much already. 3. I went up to 8. Now I'm down to 5. Because 8 was kind of unmanageable. I thought at some point I'd have like 100. I was trying to match a king that I heard had 800, and I was like, I could probably do that this life as a project. But after 8, it was like, no. 5 is good. 5 is like the elemental number, you know what I mean, the 5 elements. So I feel good about it. And I think that one of the things that people get caught up in is that I'm living this dream. No, it's really not. You know, I think that the world is not it's not a friendly place. You try to get one thing going. You know, you speak of me being an entrepreneur, yes. My other business just opened up August 1st. That's 3 days ago.
Congratulations, by the way, for that. Congratulations. I
Thank
saw pictures and a clip. Phenomenal.
Thank you. And so now it's 4 locations now, you know, 3 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 different businesses, really, with the same branch. But being an entrepreneur, or whatever the words are that describe these things, are just natural. They're the next thing to do, if that makes sense. It's like I look around when I was talking to my staff last week. I said, what the fuck else are you going to do if you're not going to just completely live? Like, is there another choice besides totally living? You know, I'm trying to understand this mentality that people have, which is, well, you know, I'm trying to live. Like, what else are you fucking doing? You're living. So you're going to give it everything or you're not. And I can't see the other side of not giving it everything. And every aspect of my life, from the businesses to the women, to the way I look, to the words I use to communicate right now, are expressions of somebody who has lived in this world, who has not been a kind world. And I'm saying that because if you try to just get one business going, watch the amount of support you don't get, and watch the amount of obstacles you do get, just to start one little thing in life. And so these are just my expressions that counterbalance, you could say, that negative energy. And people, one of the things they tell me, how do you stay so positive? I don't think about whether I'm positive or negative. I don't think about whether I'm living a dream or not. I don't think about whether or not I'm going to have 10 girlfriends or 30 girlfriends or whatever. I thought, you know, I read a book that had 800 girls. I said, okay, that's cool. That would be like a fun project. But that's all it was. And I think the problem is people get so caught up in their concepts of things that they stop living it. Like yesterday's podcast or whatever it was we did yesterday, the interview, somebody had asked, what do I think about when I'm with her in comfort? You know, and then my answer was, you don't. It's not something you concern yourself with when you're there. At that moment, it's like a dance. You're observing her and you're moving, and that's all it is. And you're going to make 1,000 fucking mistakes, and you're going to fuck up 1,000,000 fucking times. But what's the choice here? To give up or to keep living? And so I have in my life the expressions of my living. That's what you're seeing. And that's all it is. And sometimes, you know, like when I hear people say, oh, you know, you're so lucky you have this, or man, I really want to be like you, it almost is embarrassing to me to some degree to hear that. Because I know that I'm not even at the toenail of where I should be in my life, you know. I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? But I get it. It's relative. But it should be stated from my point of view that all that people are seeing is an expression of an individual who's just relating to life in the only way he knows how, which is just fucking balls out, go for it, don't apologize, be 100% honest. I'm not 99% honest. I'm 100% honest. The last time I lied was the last time when I met my fucking teacher when I was 19 or 20. It's been a long time since I lied. I refuse to fucking lie to anybody. It's not going to happen. There's no reason for me to lie. I have no reason to alter a fact from one thing to the next. You even heard you and I on the podcast interview where I then broke down exactly what I was on that podcast. Do you remember that?
Yeah. That was, wow, a man in a million.
And I told them step by step, this is what happened, this is why I'm here, this is how I plan on staying, and this is why you haven't heard from me. And I've fucking said everything. And it's not a problem, because to me, if you are embarrassed of your truth, if you're ashamed of your actual truth, which is what? Your actual conditions of what's going on, how you think, who you are, what's happening, then you need to make some real fucking changes, because otherwise it's going to prevent you from living. And I can't do anything but live. That's what I keep thinking. I'm looking around, I see dead eyes, and I hear dead communication, and I see a lack of energy when I look around me. Probably one of the reasons why I like being around you, Vince. You have so much life, you know, and when I'm walking around, it's just like there's not enough life around me. It's not enough. I have to watch my dogs play so I can get that interaction of life of two energies just playing with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, likewise.
And if people just started to understand that if they wanted to be, in quote, successful, right? I am successful simply and only because I continuously, in the moment, right now, speak my truth and bring value to people around me. I think if I stopped any of those two, everything would crumple around me. So I'm on this like mad creation that it's now too late to lie, right? If I was going to lie, I should have lied like fucking 18 years ago or something, and it would have been okay. Now all my creations are resting on truth. So I can't lie. I'll crumble that shit. And number two, if I bring value, which is what? Really what I believe in myself. I'm my own audience. That's why I always tell my staff when we create programs, all that shit. I'm like, would you buy it? Because if you would buy it, put it out. And if you wouldn't fucking buy it, then why are we even talking about this shit? Because I would be the first to listen to this podcast right now. I'd be the first to watch my videos. That's it. I'm making it for a version of myself out there. And so that's that resonance. And I truly forgot what question you asked me right now. But thank you for asking.
Doesn't matter. The answer was so rich. You know, when I hear those answers, it's almost like we could chunk every sentence into an entire podcast, which gave me an idea, because that concept and to live it as you do of speaking your own truth, not lying, is very, 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 very rare. And I think it would deserve an entire podcast. So I would like to plan a future interview where I interview you for that specific matter. For now, I'm looking at the time. You guys are so kick-ass, and it's our pleasure and honor and duty to be of service. We're going to go one more round with an essential question, and then stay tuned, because very briefly, I'm going to reveal a glimpse. I'm probably going to get in trouble with some Ericksonian Hypnosis group somewhere, somehow, but I sense Erickson strong right now, and I know I would have his permission. A very subtle, untapped, unknown, invisible aspect of influencing women in crucial moments, because as you get better, what's probably going to happen for most, it's going to be you're going to get close, but not quite. You're going to have a girl at your place. You're going to kiss her boobs, and then you're going to try to aim for the vagina, and she's going to go, oh, no sex. And a lot of people, they stumble there. And for guys who think that's bad when they open their mouth on the street and a girl says no, wait until you with a girl an entire evening, she's half naked, and you're starting to have you end up with blue balls. Okay, so we want to help you with that. It's one of my specialties. I call it sexualization. Meanwhile, here's the question I have. Initially, James, I met you in Australia. When they contacted me, I already had done so much globally, but I had not gone to Australia. So it was a leap of faith. Many of the other speakers backed out of it, international speakers, because it was not an event to the size of what we're doing here. It was the first of its type in Australia. And somewhere, somehow, I took that leap of faith. And I'm bringing that point because it's one of the essential things that helped me most in life. I had done it time and time again. You know, my first big event I attended was with Marshall Silver. He wanted $3,000 to certify me as a hypnotist. I only had $2,000. I called him trying to negotiate, and he said, well, your seminar has begun now. Your first exercise is you have 1 week to manifest $1,000. And I disliked the answer at the time because I was still in the mindset of everything should be just given to me, you know. But looking back on it, oh my God, if he was right here, right now, I would give him the biggest hug, buy him an expensive lunch, because to me, that's one of those kind of hypnotic suggestion that did it, because the process of manifesting going there did even more than all that I got when I was there. It reminded me of my power as a man that I can manifest. And I call it divine pussy providence. Most know they can manifest a meal. most know they can manifest a job, in the worst case, a shitty one, but very few will end up homeless. But very few know just what you can manifest, the same way you could go, I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to get this new car. You can manifest any reality. So I want to pass it to James and then to you, Arash. At what point in time did you personally take that little leap of faith where it would have been easy to pass on it, but looking back on it, being the fact that you were more of a risk taker than most, it paid off tremendously. And when I went to Australia, first, to my surprise, I was highly awarded when I went there. There was press that followed that was phenomenal, and I met people with whom I have a lifelong relationship, especially you, James Marshall. We went on tour after that. So it created that snowball effect, positive, where, and your game really impacted me, your presence. I observed you right away. I was like, wow, this guy has something. I want what he has. And I observed you a lot during that event back then. So here's the question. At what point in your life you went a little further than most, and it was instrumental in who you are today?
Well, the fact is that at every point where my life changed, there was something like that. And I think for any man, there are various junctures in your life, in your hero's journey, where you have an opportunity to stretch and to step out of a mundane, mediocre life and step into something brilliant. And you may be lucky and get 5 or 10 of those opportunities in your life, or you may only get a few. And it is truly the men that take those, as well as the men that then, when those opportunities are not there, manifest it anyway. But I guess the first big one for me was really to do with my martial arts training. I'd been an avid martial artist, studying Buddhist martial arts since I was a teenager. And when I was 22, I was studying Chinese medicine, and there was an opportunity to go to China to study. So I didn't have any money, and I just started massaging people for $20 because I was learning massage, and saved up enough cash to get over to China. And then, because I'd been learning Shaolin Kung Fu, and this was my absolute passion in life, I decided when I was in China to just go to the temple. And I didn't know how to go there. I wasn't actually really allowed to go there because I was part of a lineage which is a very strict kind of Orthodox Buddhist tradition where you're invited to do this kind of thing. You don't just go. But I did just go. And I didn't expect that I would be welcomed there, but I just wanted to see this place and to reconnect with this kind of the birthplace of this passion that was so important to me at the time. And as a result, I bumped into a monk on the street who knew my teacher, which led to various other serendipitous, acts of magic, where suddenly I was put in front of my master's master and asked the question, what do you want? And with great audacity and also with great humility, I said, I would like to train with you. And he said, Ming Tian will be in tomorrow, 5 a.m. And so it was that I got to be there. So I think the two things that came out of that was that I think the ultimate mix for a man who is going to jump ahead of the queue, who is going to have accelerated learning and accelerated progress, is that when these opportunities come along, he's going to have to be audacious enough to just put his hand up and say, that's me, or just go out there and take it. But at the same time, he's going to have the humility to understand that if he's requesting knowledge from someone superior or more wise than he, that he needs to offer something, that he needs to show that he's worthy, that he needs to put in the work, that he needs to take responsibility for the outcomes. And so, yeah, I guess that was the mix of things that I always went for. I always went out and said, yeah, I'd like to do that, or I want that, or I'm here I am. But at the same time, I was very respectful of people's space, appreciative of the good fortune and help that I've come across in my life, and not being so arrogant as to assume that it's just all because I'm so great. So, yeah, I guess that was a really important experience for me and a big lesson to take away.
And how high would you say it ranks on all the things that someone can tap into to really go for the life they want?
I don't think it is that difficult. I actually don't think it's difficult at all. I think it's much more difficult to sit in a shitty, mediocre, fearful life. That takes a lot more work. You have to be constantly full of stress and doubt and all this other shit. I find this life very easy, actually. I just have fairly simple rules, which is move towards the thing that I want, and then deal with the consequences as they come. It's like That's essentially how I've done everything I do, and will continue that way. And I'm not belligerent. I'm not pushy. And I'm also not delusional. I set realistic goals, but they're ones that people never think of because they involve moving to another country or investing in a different form of investments, or learning a skill that most people don't learn, or just walking over the street and just asking that girl out. All of this stuff which most people don't do is actually fairly simple. And actually there's less competition at the top because most people aren't fighting over it.
And it really shows in your persona when I remember, suddenly I got a text. It was after the crazy downfall of Project Hollywood.
Yep.
And I want to outline that you're part of just a very small handful of guys who showed up, and you were passing through LA, but in commute, and you contacted me and said, "Are you okay, Vince?" And then you came to visit. So that moved me right there, just, to know that there are men out there like that. And then you arrived. I was teaching a boot camp, and a lot of the guys, even though they were like locals, they were all like, what time are we meeting? Where can I park? And so on. And suddenly you arrived and you had very little luggage with you. And it looked as if you had been there for forever, when in fact you were just coming back from a crazy trip. I think you were in the Amazon or something like that. And your poise and so on. So there is such a benefit in how you come across people when you take those leaps of faith and travel more and so on. Arash, what has I pass that same question to you?
All right. Let me unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think a very similar beginning of the answer, in that every step that I've taken in my life that's gotten me somewhere had that moment of kind of like taking that risk. The newest being motorcycle riding. It's now been about 3 weeks, and I'm finally beginning to really enjoy riding. But every time I get on that thing, it was a risk, every time. And the support that I got for it was none, just like anything else, right? Careful, you're going to kill yourself. Okay, great, thank you. But if I was going to trace it back to what I consider the most crucial moment that started this whole thing for me, was when I met my teacher, Manu Tupo. And the circumstances of that are truly, it's a book, the way that happened. But he asked me, he was living in Los Angeles, and I was in San Jose. And he said to me, "You need to come down and study with me in Los Angeles." He goes, "I only teach a handful of people, and it's by invitation only. And I've invited you twice now. You need to come down." And I was going to college. I had a steady girlfriend of 3 years. I was making great money. I was a head instructor at the Martial Arts Academy for a long time. So life was good at that age. Nice car, everything that somebody would want at that age. And he was leaving. He was visiting San Jose for something that I was involved in, and then he was leaving. He came up to me right before he left, and he looked at me, and he said, he has a deep voice. His name was Manu. He says, "Arash, you are a fucking animal." And the way he said that just went so deep into my core, man. I felt that in every cell. And he said, "I've already invited you twice. You should come down to Los Angeles and study with me." So he left, and I said, "Oh, yeah, thank you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, thank you." And what you see now, this relaxed, comfortable, say whatever the fuck I want, was not who I was when he met me. I was a very robotic, run around, do everything you're told, but do it really good so that everyone likes you kind of bullshit, right? And so the next day, I could not concentrate in class, in school. And I knew that I had to get the fuck out of there. So in the middle of class, I got up, and I texted. We had beepers at the time. I beeped my girlfriend, and I told her to meet me in the cafeteria. And I went there, and I said, "Do you know that guy Manu that I told you about?" Like, yeah. I said, "I'm going to go and study with him in Los Angeles. Are you still going to be my girlfriend or not?" She was like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, great." So then I called my parents, and I said, "I need to talk to you guys." And I went to go meet with them, and I said to them, I got accepted to a very prestigious acting school in Los Angeles, and I want to go study acting. I had to present it as like a scholarly, I'm going to get a degree, some shit. So it took 24 hours. I had around $1,500 saved. I took my mom's Saturn, and I drove to Los Angeles the next day. And they were calling for me as I was going to LA to get me an apartment. I arrived at the Oakwood Apartments on Barham or whatever it's called over there next to the Warner Brothers. And it was a Sunday. And I walked through the door. And it was a small studio apartment with nothing in it. I plugged in my phone. I sat on the bed. And I looked around and I said, what the fuck am I doing here right now? What am I doing? I need to fucking go back. But it was too late. It was Sunday night. And Wednesday was going to be Manu's class. So I had from Sunday to Wednesday. And I sat there just completely in shock that I just threw my life away like that. And I knew that I was going to wait till Wednesday no matter what. And it was a very difficult night, Sunday. And Monday I had nothing to do and I didn't know anybody. And Tuesday I would just walk the fucking parking lots and just try to like look around and see. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. Wednesday arrived and I couldn't wait. And I showed up to his theater. And I walked up to him, and I expected such a great, hearty greeting. Oh, yes, welcome. Oh, so great to see you. Great, we got you. I walked up to him, and he was sitting down with a big smile on my face. I said, Manu, hi. And he looked at me, and he paused, and he said, hello. I was like, oh, shit, right? This is not good. And because he was like my hope. He was the only person I knew. And I said, well, I'm here, and I said, I signed up for your class, and I'm going to be doing theater. And he said, great, go on stage. And I was like, fuck, this guy's cold as fuck. What am I doing here? So I did that, and it was so difficult being in Los Angeles during that time. It was some of the hardest times of my life, probably. No food, no money, no nothing. But I wanted to learn what that man had. He had touched me in a way deep in my soul. I knew, for some reason, I knew he was the guy I had to learn from. And so, you know, I was there for about a year and a half, and it was the greatest decision I ever made in my life. And if there's any regret in my life, when I think back my entire life, if there's one regret, which I think there's only one, it would be that before he died, I didn't spend enough time with him. That was a big mistake on my part. I should have been around him much more, you see? And that was it. That is there is no other regret. If I could do it again, I would live my life exactly the way it's been. But I would change that part. And I tell you, I would be going to L.A. every single weekend. Every weekend I'd be going to L.A. to study with him 2-3 days, or just have tea with him, or just sit around him. Because in that 1 year and a half, what I have right now in my life is attributed to meeting that man and him demonstrating certain principles of the mind and communication and life that completely altered the way I looked at the world. And that was the greatest thing that happened to me. And I tell everybody, if there was no Manu Tupou, there would be no IMC Academy, there would be no Seduction, there would not be no Arash Dibazar like this. I would probably be a very successful robot in the world. That would suck.
Wow.
That was it for me.
I got shivers and genuine tears because as I was listening to you, I don't know, we moved in the same direction because I was starting to think about some of my former mentors, and I disconnected with them at some point. And I'm talking old school, Jim Rohn, Stephen Covey from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I had met. I was a trainer for the Covey Leadership Center, and so on. And at one point, I wanted to reconnect with them, and I found out they had passed away. And wow, same as you just said. That's when I felt a little silly that I didn't seize more opportunities. I'm realizing time is going by, and the content is so rich. Thank God we're not the type that will market everything, because we could turn that into an interview series that will be far beyond what had been done in the W dating days of all those legendary interviews. So, but we give these gentlemen, there will be plenty more, and fuck watching TV, fuck turning on the radio. Play these in the background, even put them on loop, re-listen to some of the former podcasts we did with all of the speakers that are coming to the convention. And that's how, according to this study I mentioned before, UC Irvine, that eventually you hear it, and it makes more and more sense. More and more you are understanding the value, and you end up in the category of being the ripe apple. I will share with you in a moment, in conclusion, a very potent glimpse of the greatest secret of influence to get to sex. And I could withhold that because it's a little bit private information for in the circle of hypnotherapists and so on, but I will share with you. But you will not do that with friends and family. And I consider, I'm kind of a senior in this community. I consider most students are younger than me. I consider most students out there, my younger brothers and so on. And James Marshall mentioned being vulnerable, and Arash mentioned, living your truth, not lying, and so on. And for me, I want to take good care of you. So I will simply say directly, come to that fucking convention, or at least benefit from everything we're bringing around it. Now, in conclusion, with women, and I pause for a second because this is hardcore stuff. I'm going to give you an example first of Erickson, and then a secret ingredient added later on. Let's say you have in front of you a cup of water, and you have a person, and you don't know how thirsty they really are. There's three options. They could not be thirsty, they could be mildly thirsty, or they could be really thirsty. Translate that to women, they could not really be a good sexual candidate. They could be mildly, possibly a good sexual candidate for you, or they could be a really good sexual candidate. The mistake that most people make, because we've all tend to buy into the program that in order to have more, you need to push people, is that they always try to influence from a place that's a little bit beyond where the person might be at. So most people would say, you want some water, or have some water, or some may get pushy and go, why don't you have some water? And now category number one, at the level of the unconscious, it's going to hold them back even more. Category number two is going to probably keep them at the same place because it's going to be a little more appealing, but also some reasons why they shouldn't drink the water will come to mind. And category number three, it would appear that, okay, they'll say, yes, I'll have some water, but they would say it even more greatly if you present it from slightly under where they may be at. And it's a win no matter what. So Erickson, and he even had been tricked to do that with people who didn't speak English, and he didn't speak any other languages fluently, to non-verbally influence them to grab water. If Erickson would probably have said, you probably wouldn't want some water, and maybe emphasize want some water, and maybe use the tonality to make water sound so refreshing just by the way he would say it. Now, with women, most guys start to think, okay, this one, I'm pulling her, I'm fucking her, and they're going to push, and it breaks, and it snaps, unless they're an expert. But it takes so much to become an expert. So instead, how about going slightly underneath and go, wow, you'd be tempted to go somewhere right now, but I don't know, it might not be the best night to do it. Now, many guys would be, but isn't that telling her not to do it? For the bottom category, now she's relaxed enough, and now you can really begin the seduction. For the middle category, instead of going yes, but maybe no, now she's moving in the direction of yes. And the top category, a question that comes often is, how do you want people to be more invested, women, to be more invested in you? That's going to cause her, because there's the risk of it not happening, to want it even more. Now, if you keep it at that, it would take really doing it a lot to doing it the right way. So that's when I came in and I brought in the element of dual direction, where you also emphasize the other part, other aspect, and then go for a minimal request. For example, first with the context of water, and then I wrap it up, and then the context of sex. Water, wow, this water looks really clear and appealing, and I'm sure a cup of it would feel very good. But you know what? You probably don't want a cup right now. The appeal is even greater. But I tell you what, just in case, here's a glass. And that's how Erickson would run his sessions and get people who were really stuck into no to get closer and closer to yes. With a girl, well, I'm sure you must be a spectacular love maker, challenging her, suggesting making love. But you know what? Don't make fun of me. I'm more the type. I may need a little time. But I tell you what, why don't we at least go upstairs and I'll show you my place. And that is killer. GlobalSLR.com. Tonight, you go to that site, August 4th, and you will witness a historical moment. The two wizards of our community reunited, Hypnotica and Arash Dibazar. And the first time I had heard about Arash was when he did an event years ago with Hypnotica. And we thank you very much. More to come. Deadlines for tickets tonight midnight. If you hear this afterwards, there will still be many opportunities, but act fast. And I really want to thank James Marshall.
You're welcome.
Solid
Pleasure.
content. I know you also often work with John Keegan, who will be there. So let's honor our buddy John Keegan, who's coming.
I love fucking working with John Keegan. He's my favorite.
my God. You two tour oftentimes, and
yeah,
what a
enough.
pair, and so on. And guys, you get a walk around the block for half an hour if you ask today with James Marshall, which is so giving and super cool and unlike any other offer from any other speakers. And of course, the man I consider my best friend and the man that most inspires me in this community and the man that I predict will take this further than it's ever been taking, Arash Dibazar. We do this pretty much every day, but wow, what a growth. And heads up, we got 60 days exactly today to the convention. And on my side, I'm going to be very giving. I'm going to do a countdown video on Facebook. One new video every day as we get closer to the convention. I'll bring speakers in those videos as well, different topic. And we'll start later on today with what it really takes to truly decide for today to be remembered as the beginning. So thank you, James Marshall. Where can guys find you? What's the site? What's the contact info?
They can find me at www.thenaturallifestyles.com. That's styles with an S on the end of it. I'm mostly in Europe coaching throughout summers, but I'm also coming to America to teach in New York in October. So I'm always bouncing around the world, teaching guys and getting into trouble. So come find me.
And of course, for everybody who's coming to the convention, he will be there. And by the way, James, there's quite a few European. Israel, we got Denmark, France, UK that are coming, participants coming the distance to have that experience.
Good decision.
Arash, I pass it to you for a word to close this call, and I know you got to get ready for the thing with Hypnotica tonight. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Vince, for again doing this. Your continuous energy is very refreshing for someone like me who has to always push people to do something. In this case, I find myself, running head to head here, and I like that shit a lot. It continues to inspire me to keep going, and I love that. And James, it's a pleasure meeting you, brother. That was really some powerful shit. I'm actually looking forward to spending a little bit of time and looking through your videos and learning some stuff. That was really awesome. So I'll be on tonight at 8 with Hypnotica, globalslr.com, everybody. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be truly, truly mind-blowing. I know what Hypnotica can bring, and I know I'm not going to bring anything less. So we're gonna fucking rock it. It's going to be very powerful. And I look forward to seeing everybody at the Global Convention also.
Thanks, Arash. Good to meet you, and I can't wait to hang out in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have a good time.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
And stay sexy. Stay sexy. Goodbye, everybody. More to come.